Welcome to Crime Time Cases, where we delve into the most gripping, true crime stories. Today, we explore the tragic case of Christy Wesselman, a bright and promising 15-year-old from Glen Ellyn, Illinois, whose sudden disappearance and untimely death left a community shaken and questions unanswered for decades. Stay tuned as we uncover the details of her life, disappearance, and the eventual resolution of this haunting case. Introduction to Christy Wesselman. Christy Wesselman was born on April 19, 1970, in the picturesque suburb of Glen Ellyn, Illinois. Nestled within a community often described as safe and idyllic, Christy's life reflected the warmth and stability of her surroundings. She lived with her mother, two older brothers, and a sister in a close-knit family. Her home was filled with love, and Glen Ellyn offered a sense of security that made what happened all the more devastating. As a teenager, Christy stood out not just for her achievements but for her infectious energy and positive spirit. She was a natural leader who excelled academically and socially. Whether it was participating in school activities, playing volleyball, or being elected vice president of her class, Christy embraced every opportunity with enthusiasm. Her peers admired her vibrant personality, and her teachers saw her as a student destined for great things. In every sense, Christy was a shining light in her community. Beyond her accolades and accomplishments, Christy was known for her kindness and compassion. Friends described her as someone who could make anyone feel welcome and valued. She balanced her vibrant school life with a genuine love for her family, often helping her mother with household responsibilities or spending time with her siblings. Her bright future seemed assured, making the sudden and tragic events that unfolded one fateful day in 1985 an unimaginable loss for everyone who knew her. The disappearance. On a warm summer day, July 21, 1985, 15-year-old Christy Wesselman finished her summer classes and returned home. It was an ordinary day in Glen Ellyn, Illinois, and like many teenagers, Christy decided to take a short walk to the local store for snacks. The store was only a few blocks away, a trip she had made countless times without any concern. In a town as safe as Glen Ellyn, this routine errand seemed entirely unremarkable, but this time was different. Hours passed and Christy still hadn't returned. As the evening wore on, her mother's initial concern turned into fear. She called Christy's friends hoping someone might have seen her, but no one had. Family members began to search the neighborhood, retracing the path Christy would have taken to the store. Every minute that passed deepened their dread. By 1:50 a.m., with no sign of Christy, her mother made the decision to call the police. What started as a seemingly innocent trip to the store now became the beginning of a frantic and heartbreaking search. The quiet streets of Glen Ellyn, once considered so safe, suddenly felt ominous. For Christy's family, that night marked the start of a nightmare that would forever change their lives. Discovery of the body. As dawn broke on July 22, 1985, the search for Christy Wesselman intensified. Police and volunteers worked tirelessly, retracing the route she likely took to the store. It was a route familiar to her family, neighbors, and friends, a simple path that now carried an ominous weight. Tragically, the search came to a devastating end when a detective discovered Christy's body in a secluded field not far from her home. The gruesome scene confirmed everyone's worst fears. Christy had been stabbed multiple times, and the evidence suggested she had suffered a brutal sexual assault. Among the many unsettling details, one stood out. The pearl ring she always wore was missing, hinting that her killer had taken it as a twisted memento. The discovery shattered the quiet, safe atmosphere of Glen Ellyn. A community that once prided itself on its tranquility was now gripped by fear and grief. Families locked their doors, children were kept close to home, and an overwhelming sense of loss enveloped the town. Christy's murder not only robbed her family of a beloved daughter and sister, but also left a scar on the entire community, a reminder of the fragility of safety and innocence. Initial investigation and suspects. The initial phase of the investigation centered on piecing together Christy's movements on the day she vanished. Witness interviews began immediately, and police confirmed that Christy had visited the store at around 4 p.m. Unfortunately, after that point, her trail seemed to vanish. Friends and family were questioned, but no one had seen her after she left for the store. Several suspects emerged during the early stages of the investigation. Police questioned local residents and individuals with any possible connection to the area, searching for clues that might lead them to Christy's killer. Despite their efforts, each suspect was eventually cleared, including some through newly emerging DNA testing technology. This left investigators without a clear lead, and the case began to stall. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into years, the once vibrant town of Glen Ellyn was left haunted by unanswered questions. Christy's family and the community held on to hope, but the lack of progress cast a shadow over their lives. The case grew cold, becoming a painful reminder of the tragedy and the elusive justice that seemed forever out of reach. Breakthrough and justice. In 2015, a breakthrough came when DNA from the crime scene matched Michael Jones, a man with a history of violent offenses. Despite his criminal background, Jones had never been a suspect in Christy's case. Jones was charged with Christy's murder, and during his 2018 trial, he pled guilty to avoid a harsher sentence. He received 80 years in prison, ensuring he would not be eligible for parole until 2095. Christy's family expressed relief at finally having justice, but also frustration at the systemic flaws that allowed Jones's early release from prior crimes, enabling him to harm others. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the tragic case of Christy Wesselman. Her story reminds us of the importance of advancements in forensic technology and the need to improve our justice system. What are your thoughts on this case? Could earlier interventions have prevented such a tragedy? Share your insights and suggestions for future cases in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Crime Time Cases for more gripping stories. Until next time, stay safe and vigilant.